And here's Rays top prospect Carson Williams, who's just coming off of an amazing season, but you wanted more. You're about to play in the Premier 12 tournament. We've talked about that in the last episode, previewing it all. Really excited to talk to you about that, Carson, and of course, the amazing season that you had. Thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Yeah, super excited to be here and meet you guys.
Dude, so quick thing on this. And I'm sure somebody has brought this up similarly to you, but your birthday, what, June 25, 2003?
Yeah.
Rich Hill drafted June 4, 2002. Do you feel
Oh,
young? Do you think he feels old? Like this roster is amazing, man.
it is. It's a great mixture of you have the veterans, of course, like Rich, and then you have young guys like me, Tamar, and Crawford coming up through the system. So it's from people who've been here forever, and then people who are just getting started.
What was the process of kind of deciding to play in this and just even being selected for it and everything? Like, I think a lot of people listening are very excited about it. And we've been trying to, shine light on it because you see people so pumped about the Arizona Fall League, just any baseball that you can get in the off season. And there's just so many talented players. But like Jack mentioned, it's a very wide range of, veterans, young up and coming guys. Like, when did this become something that you thought, hey, I can play in this? And what kind of led to you wanting to play in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think what led to me wanting to play is anytime you can put USA on your chest, you do not pass up that opportunity. And just hearing stories about the World Baseball Classic, and you don't say no. You don't say no to an opportunity like this. And when we got to see the roster and who was on the team, it just got even more exciting just because I think this is a special team.
So I know a lot of first round caliber guys will typically have some Team USA experience, right? Like a U12, a U15, U18, whatever it may be. What was your previous experience like? Because obviously this is a little bit different when you get into pro ball because those opportunities I feel like come fewer and fewer once you get into professional baseball.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I wasn't really on the circuit much when I was coming up through middle school and high school at those young ages. I wasn't really on the circuit too much. I was either surfing, fishing, or playing another sport. And then when I turned probably 13 or 14, I got serious into baseball. That's when you kind of start playing year round. And then high school was like, okay, baseball's where I want to take my life. So I think I just I might have missed out on that opportunity a little bit.
So quick
So,
follow up to
for sure.
that. Wait, when you see the words Torrey Pines, you don't think baseball. Were you a
Yeah.
golfer at all growing up or
Yeah,
no?
yeah. No. So I started golfing 2 years ago and I'm absolutely addicted now.
Okay. Got
So
you.
I was gonna follow up later on with kind of the question about getting into baseball because I had read some things that I think Blake Butera had shared about just why he's so excited about what you're going to become as a player and what you're already becoming as a player. Because I think the argument that he was making is like Carson wasn't as dialed into baseball at a young age as a lot of other players that are as talented as he is and first round picks and all that stuff. Like, at what point did you make that shift and what was it that maybe made you realize like, hey, I can actually have a legitimate career in this. And, I've got a talent that maybe not a lot of people have.
So I think that's always been the plan, honestly. I grew up in a family where my dad praised like playing every sport you possibly could. But I think always in my head, it was always baseball.
I don't know.
I never really had a doubt that I wanted to go that route. But I grew up with basketball, baseball, football, soccer, and then in high school, beach volleyball. So
No way.
I was
That's a
all over
legend.
the place. I was all over the place.
Dude.
Do you have a second favorite? Sorry, Jack.
No, you're good.
Um, Football is will always be near and dear to my heart, but beach volleyball I will always go back and play because it's so much fun.
Okay, so I was going to ask, do you still do it? Because obviously, like I
Yeah.
hear all the stories about NBA guys going to play pickup. Like that's one of those where the Rays may not love it, but the sand is super forgiving. So like, are you fine with going to play beach volleyball? All winter long?
It's a workout too. It's good for your lateral movement. It's jumping. Yeah, it's all good stuff.
Love that.
Do you feel like the multi-sport aspect of things for you is kind of what's bled into you being such a good defensive shortstop as well? I think, I mean, that's always been, I think since day one professionally, that's been what, you get praised for. The power, of course, but also the defense there. Do you feel like it was the multi-sport and the agility and the things like that that allowed you, or did you just always kind of find that shortstop came natural to you?
I think one thing that you can take from playing all the sports and just kind of being as diverse as possible is it's different movements. I mean, the better you can move and the better athlete you are, I think I definitely don't think it hurts.
Yeah.
So with the mixture of a lot of work and reps, I think you can do pretty much anything.
When did the enjoyment for the defensive side of the game start? Like, was that something where, hey, 10-year-old Carson Williams loves taking grounders and he loves winning knockout, things like that? Or was it something that, you realized you were good at in high school and maybe when you got into pro ball and it was like, you know what, I'm going to lean into this and I'm going to make sure I'm as fluid as possible at short?
I think it probably started my sophomore year of high school.
Hmm.
I was always a shortstop, but I was a pitcher as well. So that kind of always got in the way of really focusing on short. Um, and I was our starting pitcher till my junior year of high school, which was COVID. And then I had to kind of pull back because I didn't want to go into pro ball as a pitcher. So I had to pull back on it a little bit. I was like, I'm gonna play short all year. You can't say no to pitching in high school. So I
Right.
was like, if we really need me to come in, I definitely will. But I want to stay at short just because that's the route that I wanted to go. But sophomore year, yeah, I was taking, I mean, a million ground balls, as many as I possibly could, thanks to my dad, of course.
Well, and you can see it. I mean, it's some of my favorite video to like comb through during the season. Just the way that you're able to move laterally, but then you see the arm strength and everything as well. What do you feel like beyond the reps and just, of course, the fundamentals? What do you think makes you so good at shortstop? I know that some guys don't love to like just pump themselves up, but I think a lot of people are always kind of wondering like what separates a really good defender outside of the obvious tools. Could you speak to maybe what you think is something that you leverage really well to be such a good shortstop?
I think baseball in general, you could say this for hitting too, is rhythm and timing. And on offense, you're on offense. But what some people don't know, and I've heard Francisco Lindor say this, is like you have to play offense on defense. You got to go
Mhm.
get the ball.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's obviously a guy that you can look up to. But going to get the ball and making sure you're catching it on the right hop with rhythm, it makes everything so much easier. Even with throws on the run, if you're catching it on a good hop, good transfer leads to a good throw. So a lot of those things mesh together. It all starts with your first step. And it kind of like that rhythm and timing of everything coming together makes the play easier than it needs to be.
Do you have other guys that jump out to you that maybe look up to defensively? Obviously, Lindor is a great example, but I'm
Yeah.
sure you grew up IDing a couple of shortstops, and it's like I would love to move like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing I get made fun of is I didn't watch a whole lot of baseball growing up because
Fine.
I was I just didn't. But when I watch guys like Gunner and Bobby play, those are the kind of guys I look at. I'm like, yeah, that's where you obviously that's where I want to be. You know what I mean? Those guys are absolutely incredible.
So I want to talk about the Southern League this year. I mean, you get up to AAA at the end to get some more reps, but like you grinded through the entire season out there, and whether it be the weather, which it can get real hot there in a lot of those places during the season, but the thing that what stood out the most, and Jack and I have talked about this so much on the show, is how suppressed the offense was there. Last year, we knew we even had the dates of like when they were experimenting with baseballs and everything like that. You were one of the few guys that like put up an OPS over 800 in that league. And like that's where we look at WRC plus because it's like it's not all the same. Your OPS in like the mid 800s was like 50% above league average, which is insane. Whereas you have like the PCL, where that'd probably be close to league average in AAA there. So, like, what do you think it was that made it so difficult to hit out there? And then on top of that, you have your best offensive season in terms of relative to what everybody else is doing, and just also, I think, shoring up everything in your offensive profile in a place where everybody is struggling.
This league was tough this year, and you can attribute that to a lot of things. The fields for sure to start, a lot of graveyards. There were not a lot of hitter friendly ball, or there aren't a lot of hitter friendly ballparks in that league. And the pitching was good. That there was a strong pitching staff on every team in that league.
Yeah.
So you can go a couple different ways, but it was definitely a tough league to hit in this year.
It was funny. Like we were IDing some of the stabs in that Southern League, and it's like, okay, all these guys are balling out right now. And Thorpe was amazing to open the year, and Iriarte, and I'm, Noah Schultz in Chicago, and then you go
Oh yeah,
elsewhere, and Milwaukee
he's
had
an
you.
he's an at bat right there. Gosh, he's a
Schultz.
tough at bat. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, who are some of the guys this year that jumped out to you where it's like, this is a tough go? Like I rung the towel drive all it was worth.
So Schultz is a really tough at bat. A lot of extension, velo, and just not a fun one. You gotta pick a pitch. Who Cade Horton, is
Yeah.
that what his
Oh
name
yeah,
Yeah.
is?
In
tough.
Tennessee. Yeah.
He was nasty at the beginning of the year. We faced him week 2. Really, really good stuff. Manipulates his slider really well. Who's another guy? Trying to think of names here for you.
I know Data was in
Pretty
that
much
league for a while.
pretty much all of the Brewer staff on Biloxi was a lot of velo and good breaking stuff. So it's a mix of everything.
Did you get to see Craig Yoho at all? That reliever with the
His
changeup.
changeup is nuts. His changeup's crazy. Our entire dugout didn't even know what to do with it.
One of my like closest buddies faced him in AAA and worked a walk, and I was like, man, that was a really good 3-2 take. He's like, I was never
Just
swinging
don't
at that
swing.
pitch.
Just don't
Yeah,
swing.
he's like, I was never swinging
You
at that
can't
thing.
swing.
Yeah. So what?
It's crazy. It's crazy because it's so slow and it moves so much.
And then he's got the sweeper that it goes like 25 inches the other way. It's just a matter of landing it where it's like, no way anybody else in professional baseball is getting that much horizontal separation.
You got 50 inches of separation on those two pitches.
But,
What?
but on that point, your numbers against secondaries this year, took a huge jump, and you've always destroyed fastballs, and that's something that I think you put up the big power numbers through the lower levels. But even just comparing from last year or excuse me, from 2023 to 2024, like 181 and a 633 OPS against secondary stuff, and then this year against secondaries, an OPS north of 760 and a 250 batting average against secondaries, which with what you do against fastballs, that's how you get the ridiculous slash line that you put together. Was there something that clicked for you going into this season? Was it approach, swing mechanics wise that it really allowed you to make this leap against secondaries?
Yeah, it's approach. Definitely approach based. We did work a lot on keeping everything tight during the year just as the turn goes.
Mhm.
But yeah, approach was big. Starting off the year, I mean, I was as hot as you could possibly be. And what I didn't realize is I was using a really good approach that entire time. And when you got into the middle of the season, you kind of sometimes, I mean, it's baseball, you got the roller coaster of the ups and downs. You hit some downs and you forget sometimes what got you into that really good place. And then as the year went on, I kind of was like, okay. So this is what I was using, this is what I was doing, and you can kind of lean back on that. And I think that was a big part of why there was a jump there.
How do you work on approach? Like I know that's a very, vague overarching
Stubborn.
question.
You got to be stubborn.
So you do, and you have to probably be a bit unwavering, when it goes by like a day by day basis, right? Where you go, 0 for 3 one day, it's, hey, I got to stick to this type of feeling. The next
Yeah,
day, is it in a B by A B thing where it's, hey, I want to be in this line of thinking and we're going to execute this?
it's pitch by pitch because you have to be willing to give and take. If you're looking for something close to you or you're looking for a fastball close to you and he dots a slider away, you can't get mad at yourself. You gotta live with it. And if he does it 3 times, tip your cap and walk back to the dugout. So that just makes everything easier from a take standpoint. He throws that outside slider. You're not even thinking about swinging at it. Then it's a ball. Then you're ahead in the count. Then you get your heater. So it's playing that cat and mouse game with yourself almost. The pitcher's gonna throw what he throws. You just have to be ready when he throws what you want.
And I can imagine it gets more and more difficult to do that when you're facing good arms who start to execute a little bit more than you're used to. But at the end of the day, if you start to play into that hand, it makes it even easier for them to put you away. But it's the same thing where guy executes a pitch, you put a good swing on it, and sometimes he's got to tip his cap to you.
Yeah,
Did you feel
exactly.
like it was hard at points to stick to it because of the execution side and how good the pitching was in the league? Or when you saw those results early on, knowing what you needed to get back to, was it easy to just kind of commit to that throughout the whole season? Because then again, you talked about the little lull like everybody has throughout the season, but then coming right back out strong and finishing so productive in the second half again. Was that something that just you kind of got back to where you were in the first part of the season?
Yeah, I definitely got back. Like I said, when I was going good in the first part of the season, I was just there. There was not a thought in my head. But what I didn't realize is I was actually using an approach just subconsciously. Like I was waiting on my heater, and if a slider popped inside of it, I was going. And then when you got to the end, when you got to that middle part, you forget that stuff, and then you're swinging at everything. You start to figure out, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. This is what I need to look for in these certain spots. Then you start swinging it better, and then you get back. Then when you get to that place when you're hot, you're hot.
Yeah.
And you can clear the mind a little bit. I'm sure
Exactly.
clearing the mind is like one of the more freeing things in baseball, especially in that long season. It also helps to have a fun clubhouse, I'm sure. And I mean, Tampa's in as good a spot as like any in baseball. We talk about this a good bit, but we had Trey Morgan on the show a couple months ago, and Xavier Isaac has been killing. Like this farm system is absolutely insane right now. What kind of excitement do you get knowing that all you guys are tracking it at a pretty similar rate? Like even a guy like Chandler Simpson, who is swiping his way to the show, guys like that. There's a bunch of you guys that are ready to come up at some point very soon.
There's a lot of versatility too. These guys are special. I mean, Trey Morgan's bat is, I mean, it's pretty insane. He hits everything. And then you got a guy like Chandler who he can run his way, he can run his way to the big leagues. It's so impressive, but he's also got the hit tool. So it's these guys are so impressive. Then you got Xavier, his power production is ridiculous. I saw him go 116 in the fall league a little bit ago. Who does that?
Buddy.
It's this we have a super special org, and I can't say enough about our team in Montgomery this year. We had one of the most fun clubhouses I've ever been a part of. It was unbelievable.
So how cool is that to have Chandler also on this Premier 12 team too, where, I could imagine, it's an exciting time. You probably know some of the other players there, but like we said, it's a wide net to cast. So you're probably going in there just meeting a lot of new people and everything, like having a familiar face there. And also now a guy that from a baseball perspective, like, he could end up picking up the most pivotal 90 feet that you guys need at a certain point in the game. Like how cool is it to have a guy that you played pretty much the entire or so much of the season with, and then on this team with you? And then, what do you think you can bring to the table for this Premier 12 roster? Because I can almost guarantee that nobody else in the tournament is going to be as good of a base runner as Chandler Simpson.
Oh yeah. No, he's like I said, he's unbelievably athletic. He's got a great hit tool, and his running is just it stands out. He's gonna be run production. I mean, this team hits. We've already played some of our practice games out in Arizona, and this team rakes. So if you can get a guy like that on base and he steals second, steals third, this whole tournament's about runs, and we're here to win. So the more base runners we can get and the more guys we can get in scoring position, the better.
Obviously, end goal is to win the tournament.
Of
And
course.
in order to do that, you go to Tokyo. And that is number one on my baseball bucket list. Go see a game in the Tokyo Dome. The opportunity to possibly play a baseball game in the Tokyo Dome. How much does that like fire you up when you look at joining this roster? Was that kind of one of the leaders of, hey, I might get to, fly across an ocean and go play in one of the meccas of baseball?
Like I said, this is an opportunity that does not come across your desk very often. So I am super excited. I want to go to Tokyo so bad. I've heard amazing things about the place. So I'm super excited.
One of the last ones for me, just, you've probably played against a fair amount of these guys or played with at some points, but and maybe it could even be a vet that you just appreciate through a different light now through some of those practice games and scrimmages that you guys have had. Is anybody like just stood out to you where like, oh wow, I didn't know that he had it like that, whether it be on the prospect or of course big league side?
No, you give a lot of respect to these guys out here. When you see them hit, you're just, yeah, that
Yeah,
checks out.
yeah, checks out.
That
Yeah,
checks out. I
yeah.
mean, I
Totally
played
agree.
against a fair amount of them. We got Matt Shaw, we got Tim Elko. I mean, a lot of these, there were a couple guys in the Southern League, and just really good ball players and fun to watch.
What's Elko's batting practice like?
Dude, he hit a ball off of the center field scoreboard yesterday it's just stupid.
There we go. You got a couple of those guys. Hey, Carson, last one from me. You got a tournament to win, and that'll take up your next couple of weeks. But after that, what's the offseason plan as you get into a season where, I know Tampa and a lot of people around the prospect world, have really high hopes for you?
Yeah, I'm super excited for the off season. I got a good chunk. I got a month to go home and then start to get ready for the Premier 12, obviously.
Yep.
But after this gets done, super relaxed. I'll obviously be working out, staying in shape, and getting ready for spring. It always looks like I won't touch a bat or a ball till about January when I'll head back out to Florida, and then I'll be with the Rays getting ready for spring this year.
Yeah, the last one for me is kind of just building on that. You get this opportunity here to, play some high stakes ball. And I think just you guys also playing in the postseason and double A. I know that's something that's important to the Rays Oregon. I misspoke earlier about the triple A stint. That was actually last year, right? Where you got
Yeah,
to
that
play a
was
couple
last
games.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, which is wild. But now you go into this year, full season, very successful year in double A under your belt. But in a situation where, we're seeing more and more talented players like yourself who, provide value beyond the bat, quickly get the opportunity to play in the big leagues. And, going into this spring training and everything, how do you kind of manage the excitement and I'm sure high expectations you have for yourself while also just going in there and treating it the same way you treated the last spring training, which obviously resulted in a very nice season for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Ray, I always give credit to the Rays organization just because they're so good at developing that when we do go into spring and we go into these mini camps and we have all of our coordinators that we're working with, we're all moving in the right direction. So when you go into spring, you can't put too much pressure on it just because they're working with you, and when they think you're ready and when you think you're ready, your time will come.
That's awesome. No, and I think a lot of people get very excited on the outside and start pounding the pavement. We're probably guilty of that too. But having that mentality as a player, I'm sure is very freeing, and just knowing that you can lock in and the
It's
rest kind of
hard.
takes care of itself.
You know how the mind works. You obviously,
Oh
of
yeah,
course, I want to get to the big leagues as fast as I can,
yeah.
but it also takes time and it takes reps. So it's just a matter of time.
Well, it definitely is coming soon, and we're excited to see it, man. But before that, very excited to see you compete with that USA across your chest and get to Tokyo. You'll get there before us, but that's a bucket list thing for both of us. We're we're
Yeah.
we're, we're literally like I'm casting aside like change every single day until I can
Mhm.
fill up a water jug enough to just send me out there. But enjoy it, man. Best of luck, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
No, I appreciate you guys having me.